Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Game Patrol. I'm your host, Landon Plumley, and we've got some fun stuff to talk about this week. Last week, we talked about PlayStation 5, and the week before, we talked about Xbox Series X and S, and now we're going to have the ultimate final showdown. Xbox versus PlayStation. Which console comes out on top? Which should you be trying to pick up in this Black Friday showdown? I finally got my hands on a PS5. It comes in on Wednesday. I am very excited. Picking up Demon's Souls this weekend and Devil May Cry on Wednesday. So I'm really excited to be getting into this ecosystem finally after all this conundrum. But it's been really busy. It's been really stressful with the PS5 and then some other stuff that I'm going to talk about later on in the show. But first off, for my video listeners out there, I apologize. I've got a new setup going for now. Not 100% sure how this is going to go. For one, I don't know what to do with the pandas because you can't see the pandas. Hold on, like there they are. Look at them. They're over there. I'm not sure what to do with the pandas yet. But I will make the pandas viewable, hopefully in some format. It's just like I said, I've got a new studio going. I also got this brand new gaming chair, which I am so excited about. Shout out to my mother for giving this to me as an early Christmas present. Absolute solid woman. Love her to death. But yeah, so I have a gaming chair now, and so, I'm a professional now, but anyway, yeah, so I apologize if it's not 100% perfect. I haven't streamed since I've been in this new setup, so I don't, they usually give me feedback on how to look better, and, if things work out correctly, because it's difficult for me to tell, because it's I don't have this, huge studio that I can customize and that sort of thing. And this is where I'm going to be for not even 2 months. So I don't want to put too much work into changing things around, but I also want things to be of a certain quality. So, again, apologies if it's not up to my amazing standard, but let's get into the games coming this week. I've got a lot of awesome stuff to talk about today. So, out Tuesday, Chronos Before the Ashes is releasing for PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC, and Google Stadia. Chronos Before the Ashes is an atmospheric RPG that chronicles a hero's lifelong quest to save their homeland from a great evil. And so this game is actually, I found out, a prequel to Remnant from the Ashes. I had no idea. But something that's really cool to me is every time you die, you age a year. So there's a really unique aging system that I think is really freaking cool. And so if you're looking for a unique RPG experience, this is coming out. I'm really excited for it. It was kind of under the radar for me, but it sounds something super interesting that I'm really excited to check out. So this is something that comes out on Tuesday. Also on Tuesday, Empire of Sin for PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. So Empire of Sin is a new strategy game brought to you by Romero Games and Paradox Interactive that puts you at the heart of the ruthless criminal underworld of 1920s Prohibition-era Chicago. This game is basically if the Wasteland devs made a Mafia game. That's essentially what this is. And it looks really cool. I'm really interested in it. It's definitely something I'm going to keep an eye out for. But yeah, if you are interested in tactical RPGs, yeah, I think this is definitely the game for you. I think it looks really, really cool. Also out Tuesday, we've got Twin Mirror for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Forced to confront his past, Sam Higgs uses his unique intellectual abilities to uncover his hometown's dark secrets. But how do you know who to trust when you're not even sure you can trust yourself? This is Dontnod's new game. If you remember, they just released Tell Me Why, an episodic game, over the summer. And so, not even, that was late August, early September, I feel like, when that came out. But yeah, they already have a new game, and this one's a full game. It's not episodic. I believe it's $35, so it's not a full $60 game. But yeah, this is coming out. I'm excited about it. They don't have any supernatural aspects of it, but it still kind of has their whole formula where it's there's a mystery, and you use some sort of sense to be able to aid your detective skills and that sort of thing. But it's a lot more grounded this time, so definitely something to check out if you are a fan of Don't Nod. But then on Tuesday, we also have Worms Rumble for PS5, PS4, and PC. Worms Rumble is Worms like you've never played it before, with intense, real-time, arena-based 32-player cross-platform combat. Get ready for deathmatch and last worm standing modes where you're only ever a holy hand grenade away from death. So this looks really cool aesthetically. I've never played any of the Worms games, but I think it looks cool, and what excites me most about it is that it is the free PS5 game for December. I'm going to get into that more later, but if you own a PS5 and you have PS Plus, you get this game for free right when it comes out on December 1st. And so it joins Bug Snacks as the only free games you can get with PS Plus right now. So yeah, I'm really excited to check this out. I will be jumping into it. And so it seems like a fun little rumble, you know? And so those are the games coming out this week. Again, it's a little slower because, you know, we had this gigantic month of November and really just 2 weeks there. And so now we're slowing down a little bit, but still some really cool games releasing. And so getting into the gaming news this week, Watch Dogs Legion's online mode has been delayed into early 2021 to fix single-player bugs. So there's been a lot of complaints about technical issues with Watch Dogs Legion. I myself have experienced quite a few while playing. It's been a while since I've played, partly because of the huge launch rush, but also, you know, I figured it'll give them time to fix these bugs. And so they're continuing to work on it. And so they have delayed the online mode because they're 100% focused on making it perform as it should. And so we will no longer be getting this mode in December as previously announced. And so I think this is cool. I'm glad that, you know, the devs are making sure that, you know, they have a stable game before they add on to it, that, you know, everything is as it should be. And so, you know, props to Ubisoft Montreal for taking the time to really look at the game and make sure it runs as it should. And so, yeah, props to them. But then, as I mentioned earlier, the PlayStation Plus games for December have been announced. And so on the PS4 end of things, we've got, I'm going to try to name this off the top of my head. I know I can look it up, but I want to see if I can remember. Just Cause 4 and I don't remember the other one. Hold on. Just Cause 4 and a game that I am going to say right now, Rocket Arena, are the free PS4 games, which is cool. I mean, I personally, like, I love Just Cause 2, but 3 and 4 did not seem to have anything to offer for me. But, yeah, those are going to be free. And then, like I said, we got Worms Rumble on PS5. And the reason that I point this out, because, you know, I don't usually talk about the free games of the month in terms of gaming news, like set aside some time for that. But Xbox has also revealed their games with gold for December, and there's no Series X specific games. It's just as it was last month, in that you get, and, you know, previous months before that, where we have 2 Xbox One games and 2 Xbox 360 games. Although, like I said, occasionally we'll get original Xbox games, but, you know, that's what this month is. And there's no game specific for Xbox Series X because they don't really have much to give away. And so, you know, this is definitely something that PlayStation has over Xbox right now, where players are getting free PS5 games, whereas these new Series X owners or Series S owners are continuing to get free games from last generation. And, you know, PlayStation games are also doing that because, you know, with the backwards compatibility, you can play Just Cause 4 and Rocket Arena on your PS5. But, you know, they're getting games that they can't play anywhere else, at least in terms of, like, they can't play them on last gen. Or, you know, I was about to say, because Bug Snacks is on PS4 and Worms... Is Worms on PS4? I literally just read it. Yeah, it is. Okay, but still, they're getting games that were designed with PS5 in mind, whereas, you know, the games with gold are just getting games that were built for the Xbox One. So, you know, it is definitely something that PlayStation has over Xbox right now. However, you know, Xbox, on the other hand, has Game Pass, where it's like all of their first-party games are coming straight to Game Pass, so you have it with that subscription. So I know their only game was Gears Tactics, which came out earlier on PC, but, you know, they do have that sort of thing going on. But it's not quite at the same level. So this is definitely an advantage that PlayStation has over Xbox right now. But something else that I'm super excited about, and if you've played Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you'll be excited too, most likely. Orlog is getting a physical version. So I'm going to get into the specifics of this here. So Orlog is the dice game that is included in Valhalla, similar to the way Gwent was a feature in The Witcher 3. It is super fun. I have a ball playing it. I love it to death. But a board game website called Dicebreaker has learned that a physical version is in production, and their quote is that Ubisoft will be working with pop culture collectibles producer Pure Arts to publish a physical version of Orlog in 2021. Ubisoft did not provide any further details or dates at this time. I'm super excited. I'm going to pick this up at launch because I love Orlog, and I want to show people Orlog. And so, you know, it's less of a commitment to be like, hey guys, come over, let's play Orlog, than to say, hey, go buy Assassin's Creed Valhalla and play Orlog. You know, like, it's much less of a commitment to do that. So anybody that I know that has not played Valhalla, when Orlog, this physical version, comes out, I will make them come over and play Orlog because it's so much fun. And it doesn't have any right to be as fun as it is, but it is. And it's just great. And I love it. And so, yeah, we're getting Orlog, guys. Game of the Year 2021. It's Orlog. But yeah, it's really fun. And so next up, there has been a massive Capcom leak that has revealed Dragon's Dogma 2, Street Fighter 6, and potentially more. So we have confirmation that have been independently, these facts have been independently verified, that we know Dragon's Dogma 2 and Street Fighter 6 are legitimately in development. They are 100%. That part of the leak is for sure true. But there's a bunch of other stuff that we might not necessarily know is true. And so a lot of them were in code names and that sort of stuff, so we don't know exactly what they might mean. And so I'm going to get into it. And they also have dates, and those could obviously change as well. But the leak revealed that in Q4 of fiscal year 2021, which would be January to March of 2022, would be, we're supposed to get Resident Evil Outrage, so whatever that is, if that's something along the lines of like a spin-off or, you know, something like that, which I'm curious because Resident Evil spin-offs have a track record for being bad. I mean, Revelations is really the only spin-off that has done relatively well, so if it's something along the lines of that, I'm excited, but otherwise, I don't want it. But then in Q2 of fiscal year 22, which would be, making sure I got this right, it would be the third quarter, so that's July through September. We're supposed to get Dragon's Dogma 2. Then Q3, meaning the fall, we'll get Street Fighter 6. Also during that fall, it's called Rockman Mega Man in North America match, so some sort of Mega Man game. Then Q4 of fiscal year 2022, meaning early 2023, Resident Evil 4 remake. Monster Hunter 6 in Q2 of fiscal year 2023, meaning July through September of 2023. Then in Q3 that fall, Biohazard Apocalypse. Then in Q4 of 23, SSF 6, which most likely means Super Street Fighter 6. So that will apparently come out, what would that be? Just over a year after Street Fighter 6, which is interesting, but not necessarily hard to believe. Then in Q2 of fiscal year 2024, we've got a Final Fight remake. And then the next quarter, we've got a Power Stone remake. And then a quarter after that, we're getting into early 2025. We've got Ultra Street Fighter 6. And then also during there, Resident Evil Hank. Although they say likely it's Hunk, that there was some sort of a typo. Either way, Hank or Hunk, I don't see the legitimacy of either of those. But again, this is probably a code name and not the official name that they're going with. But yeah, so likely what this leak was, you know, Capcom trying to delve out the next few fiscal years. I mean, this is, you know, you don't usually talk about fiscal years unless you're talking to investors or you're having reports or press releases, that sort of thing. So this was definitely a corporate sort of way of looking at their schedule for the next few years and kind of planning things out. So, these games could be in very early on development, especially those later ones like the remakes and Resident Evil Hunk. They could very well be canceled or whatever, but I think that's them just kind of planning out the next few years. So I would not take any of these. Again, we know Dragon's Dogma 2 and Street Fighter 6 are in development, and those are coming relatively soon. So those are safe bets. Anything after that, I would say at this point in time, the Resident Evil 4 remake is a safe bet because of how well the other remakes have done in the past. And then they kind of polled people whether they wanted to see a Code Veronica remake or a 4 remake. Judging by this schedule, it seems more people wanted 4. I personally wanted Code Veronica because 4's been like remastered and all that, whereas Code Veronica, the easiest way to play it is through backwards compatibility on Xbox, because they had the version for the 360. But I guess, it doesn't surprise me. 4 was much more popular, but I would like to see a Code Veronica remake, but because I've never played. But anyway, huge leak. It says that, Capcom's coordinating with law enforcement in Japan and the United States, is still gauging the overall damage caused. So yeah. It also says former Capcom employees have expressed frustration with the company about how it has handled the fallout to their personal lives and information. So it seems like they've gotten a lot more than this, because the hackers have also given a ransom for the compromised information. So there's probably personal information of Capcom employees, different things like that, maybe bank accounts, all sorts of stuff. So it is definitely much bigger than this leak. This is a really huge hack. But, these are the things that we're learning on the game industry side because of it. But it's obviously, there's a lot more to it, and it's in a way that's, people's lives are being affected by it. And so it is by no means a good thing. But, having said that, there is some information we have gleaned as a result of it. So, drink break real quick. That's the interesting part of doing podcast solo. I'm the only one that could be here today. It's the day before Thanksgiving as we're recording. And also, for Justin and I, we're in college, and so dealing with end of the semester, things are really busy. And so I totally understand, but that's why I am solo this week. But finally, Hitman developer IO Interactive, I briefly brain farted on their name, announced a new James Bond game. That's interesting. Project 007. And so we're getting a James Bond origin story from the makers of Hitman, which I have seen no negative reception to this. People are ecstatic. People are like, if anybody can make a James Bond game, it's IO Interactive. The way that the Hitman franchise operates and is just doing so well. Hitman 3 comes out in January, so, they're just wrapping up development on that. And so now they have sort of, some of the team members now moving on to the next project, and that next project is Project 007, and that is flippin' awesome, and I'm super excited about that. In terms of release date, obviously they didn't offer anything, but, Hitman 2 came out in 2018, and now we're getting Hitman 3 at the beginning of 2021. So I would honestly, if I'm a betting man, I think it could come as early as 2023. However, since this is not necessarily a new IP since it's a license, but since this is like a completely new project versus a sequel, I would imagine it's a safe bet to say 2024 when this game releases. Early 2024 probably would be my guess. But I realize I kind of gave a little Trump voice there. But yeah, so now we're getting a James Bond game, which people are so psyched about for good reason. This game, IO Interactive has been knocking it out of the ballpark with Hitman games lately, and now they're coming out with this awesome. They're working really closely with MGM to develop this game, and it seems like they're going to have access to a lot of resources and a lot of freedom to do what they want. And just seeing a James Bond origin story is really, really cool, because I've always wanted to get into James Bond. It's just very intimidating with how many movies they are. I've seen the first few, meaning like the very first few, but I've always meant to really dig into the James Bond franchise, so I'm excited. If anything, this just gives me incentive to catch up. And so, yeah, we're getting a James Bond video game. The days of GoldenEye 007 may be back. But anyway, that has been the gaming news this week. But we've been talking about next gen a lot lately. We've been talking about it because, you know, it happened and people want to know, what do I want to spend my money on? And this is a conversation that's still happening because people can't get their hands on these consoles. I mean, it took me forever, but I finally now hopefully have a PS5. I honestly, I'm not even going to definitively say that I have one until I hear confirmation that, you know, it's shipped and on its way. And then after that, I'm still going to be wary until I actually have it in my hands. So I'm definitely not too comfortable saying I have a PS5 or I own a PS5 because, you know, with all of the stuff that's went down, it's been nuts. But yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Xbox Series versus the PS5. Which one should you get? What are the pros and cons of each? Again, if you want more specifics on the Xbox or if you want more specifics on the PlayStation, past episodes of the podcast, we have talked all about those. So if you want something more in depth, those are there. But this is specifically just talking about, you know, putting the two up head to head and seeing, you know, what does what better and which one you should personally go with, all facts considering. Now, obviously, you know, a lot of this is opinionated. Well, not necessarily a lot of this will be opinionated, but a lot of it does come down to your opinion. You know, if it's all about games, you know, so it really comes down to, you know, looking at the exclusives, looking at what each has to offer and which better suits your playstyle, which better suits, you know, how much enjoyment do you think you're going to get out of each of these packages. And that's why I dedicated an episode each to discussing what each console has to offer and the potential of each. And so this is just strictly comparing the two as much as I can on an unbiased level and giving you guys my honest thoughts about which one has the better value at this point in time. And so, first off, we're going to get into fidelity. So this is just talking about pure graphical power, in which case the Xbox takes the cake. So, obviously, different games, depending on how well they've been optimized, you know, they yield different results. But the clear standard for the Series X is you've got the 4K 60 FPS. There are, like, pretty much every game does that, and it is pretty solid, you know. That is the standard, and it can go up to 120 FPS. Whereas on the PS5, you've got 4K 60 FPS with fidelity, but you don't get the sexy ray tracing, the lighting effects, all of the big, you know, buzzwords that we talked about leading up to launch. Whereas if you want those things, then it goes down to 30 FPS. Or oftentimes it just goes to 1440p at 30 or 60 FPS with ray tracing and all those features. However, you can also get up to 120 FPS in certain games as well. So, you know, there's a lot of different options with the PS5, similar to how the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X runs, where, you know, you've got the fidelity versus performance modes and all that sort of thing to, you know, kind of pick and choose. Xbox, you know, you don't have to choose, you know, you have the raw power, and so it's there. It is, you know, you can play, you have the best of both worlds. And so when in terms of just raw graphical power, the Xbox is the clear winner. But getting into performance, that's where things become a little more shaky. A lot of heavily optimized games from Xbox run really well. They're silky smooth. But there are games that don't have a steady frame rate. In fact, a lot of games, Assassin's Creed Valhalla included, actually run a lot better on PS5. While you don't have as good of textures or, you know, graphically it might not be quite as good, you know, it's running at a solid 4K 60 FPS. It's just, if you were to run it at 4K 60 on medium on PC versus on ultra with the Xbox Series X. And so because of just the pure graphical power that the Xbox has, it's kind of difficult to run some games. And so you see performance dips on some games. Now, I don't think this is something we're really going to see an issue on like, you know, Xbox first party titles. You know, I haven't heard much about the performance analysis of Gears Tactics, but I would be shocked if there were issues. You know, Halo Infinite is very highly going to run very, very well on the Series X and S. And so, you know, it's one of those things where first party games that are, designed to run on an Xbox or a PC, you know, like, but they are specifically, you know, they want it to run really well on the Xbox. Those are going to run really well. But when you get to third-party games or multi-platform, you know, it can definitely vary. And a lot of times we're actually seeing the PS5 outperform the Xbox because it knows it's not the best. It knows it can't necessarily handle these ultra-high textures, but it knows that what it can handle really, really well. And the frame rate is rock solid. So when it comes to performance in terms of frame rate, the PS5 definitely has the advantage. And so going over to the games, it's funny to talk about Xbox having games. So I've put together a list here, and I don't have it pulled up, so that's why I'm furiously, not really furiously, but I'm pulling this up because I realized that I should have, but I didn't think about it. But basically the big games for each system. And the Xbox does have some games that might not necessarily, you know, run the best, or like are, you know, are the only place to play the game on, but you know, it's definitely the place to play. So I misspoke earlier when I said it's not the definitive place to play, but you know, so it's not that, you know, there aren't multi-platform games on this list, but this is definitely the place to play it. And so on the Xbox Series X, we've got Tetris Effect Connected, Observer System Redux, the Falconeer, and Bright Memory. So Observer System Redux specifically is on PS5 as well, but it is very well optimized for Series X, and it runs really, really, really well. And so it is definitely a game to show off your Xbox with. But, you know, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, like I said, it runs really well on the Series X and looks beautiful, but there are definitely some performance issues where on PS5 it shines better. But I also wouldn't necessarily say it's a game you want to get on PS5. I think Valhalla is the type of game that runs best either on PS4 or if you're playing on PC. You know, I haven't run into very many issues with the PC version at all. And so it seems like the next-gen versions are really struggling because of just trying to max out that power. And so I wouldn't recommend Assassin's Creed Valhalla on either of these systems. But when you get to the PS5 with the games for them that are like, again, like the definitive versions of these experiences, again, we've got a lot of exclusives, but then there's some really cool multi-platforms as well. We've got Demon's Souls, we've got Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, we've got Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, we've got Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, we've got Astro's Playroom, we've got Sackboy: A Big Adventure, we've got The Pathless, we've got Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and we've got Godfall. That's 9 amazing games. Okay, maybe not necessarily amazing when it comes to Godfall and Black Ops, but, you know, 9 games that either are built for the PS5 or run best on PS5. That doesn't necessarily mean look best. You know, they have proven that Black Ops Cold War does not look as good on PS5 than on Xbox, but it runs silky smooth, and, you know, you've got exclusive things over on PlayStation to keep you going. And so it is the definitive place to play Black Ops Cold War. So when you look at purely on a game standpoint, which one gives you the better value, the PS5 wins by a long shot. And then you go over to the controller. And honestly, a lot of people have been talking about the DualSense because it is the new thing, but this is not quite as, you know, it is still a close race, because with Xbox, you've got same old, but, you know, old is gold, you know? We've got, sorry, my headset. I always forget that when I do this solo, when there's no sound coming through the headset, it'll automatically turn off. But you know, with this Xbox controller, you know, there's not a whole lot new. They've added a new button, but otherwise it's about the same. People do talk, though, that this has some really nice, basically the equivalent of like quality of life improvements. So like, I would compare the new Xbox controller to like a remaster of the Xbox One controller, where it's like, it's not a full-on new game, but, you know, it makes some nice improvements to bring it to the 2020 standard. And so there's a lot of cool things about the Xbox. And we also have the Elite Series 2 controller, or the Series 1. I mean, I have mine. I think it's over there. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna get it. But, you know, we've got controller options. And so I'm digging this out in the dark. I don't even know if y'all can hear me, but I'm gonna get it. Ugh. Was that necessary? No, it was not. But I figure since it's just me, let's have fun, you know? We're talking about these new consoles that are both great, and so let's have fun with it. But, you know, we've got the amazing Series Elite Series 2 controller, which is it might be my favorite controller ever. You know, again, I haven't had the chance to get my hands on the DualSense, so you know that's pending. But you have a lot of options with the Xbox and a lot of really cool things that you can do. Um, and so it's like it's one of those things where you know how can you say that that's bad? You can't really. However, you know, you get a brand new shiny console, and it does kind of put a damper on the experience when you have this controller that looks like one you've been using for 7 years. I mean, even the Xbox One controller didn't look all that different from the 360, even though it made some tremendous improvements. There was definitely a much bigger jump from the 360 to the One versus the One to the Series. But again, like it's not necessarily a bad thing because you know when you have such a good controller, it is difficult to innovate. But a lot of people love the DualShock 4. It personally wasn't my huge cup of tea, but it had some really cool qualities to it. But with the DualSense, PlayStation came out and said, you know, we do have a good controller, but we're going to continue to make it even better in really cool new ways. And the DualSense came out of the gate swinging. And so it's the holy grail of game controllers. I mean, this thing has so many cool features that who knows if it's going to be used. I mean, the Joy-Cons had the HD rumble that very few games now take advantage of. You know, you saw it a lot at launch, but now it's like, you know, so we'll see about long-term usage, but the triggers feel great. The buttons feel good. They've taken everything good about the DualSense and made it better and then added some really cool new features that I hope developers make use of. And so this is the way like where we're at a point where we have such good controllers on the market now. It's becoming more difficult to make meaningful, you know, big looking improvements. Sort of in the same way of where we're at with the consoles, where we had these 4K consoles, the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. How do you make this new generation feel impactful? And it's through the little things, and it's through some cool new innovations. You know, it's not all about graphical power like the PS5 has shown with their SSD. It's lightning fast. And, you know, I didn't have a category for speed, but, you know, PlayStation knocks it out of the ballpark. It's super, super fast. It's twice as fast as the Xbox. And so, you know, it's not always about what looks the prettiest. And in the same way that with the controller, you know, they have to kind of find new ways to innovate. And PlayStation really did a good job of doing that. And so overall, I mean, I think it's closer than people give it credit for, but the DualSense and the PS5 take this one. But then when you get to the ecosystem, when you get to the extra features, all of the stuff that, you know, would really just be like a, hey, while you're here, Xbox completely decimates PlayStation. They've got Game Pass. You know, you give $10 a month minimum, and you can play every single Xbox first party game and plenty of others as well. There are plenty of games that are third party that launch into Game Pass, or if they don't launch into Game Pass, they come relatively quickly. And so, you know, you really don't have to, like, we're getting to the point where you don't have to buy games on your Xbox anymore. I mean, they just recently included EA Play onto the Xbox, so you can play Jedi Fallen Order with Game Pass, and which is super fun because it's one of the best games of last year. And so Red Dead Redemption 2 is on Game Pass, and that was one of the best games of the year before. And so it's, you know, you don't even have to buy these games. You can just play them for free with your subscription. And so it's one of those things where, in terms of value, you know, Game Pass makes the value of an Xbox so much more because you don't have to be shelling out now $70 for games on PlayStation side. You just get Game Pass. You pay $15 a month, which is going to save you so much money in the long run. And, you know, maybe occasionally shell out some money for some game that doesn't come to Game Pass. But it's a phenomenal deal in gaming. It is by far the best deal in gaming, and it is only continuing to get better. And it is absolutely nuts that Xbox is doing this and making no profit from it, you know? I really think Xbox has every right to make this more expensive because it is such a good deal in gaming. Meanwhile, on the PS5, they've definitely improved from where they were at the beginning of last gen, and even, you know, from the PS4 to the PS5, because we have PlayStation Now, which has become, better than it used to be, but it still is nowhere near Game Pass. But, there's some really cool offerings of PlayStation Now, and it's a unique way of approaching backwards compatibility. But then they also have the PlayStation Plus collection. I mean, when you get your PS5, it's a lot of money for a PS5. You might not necessarily have the money to buy some new games, but you got 30 of them if you got PS Plus. And so you got 30 amazing games from the PS4 collection, and there are quite a few of those games that I didn't check out last gen. And so I really want to check, like Days Gone, I really want to check that out. And that might honestly be one of the first games I play on my PS5, is checking out Days Gone, especially because one of the biggest gripes with it on the PS4 was technical issues. And so seeing some or all of those rectified on the PS5 might make it a much stronger game than people remember it to be. And so there's plenty of other games that I haven't experienced in that collection that, I get for free now. And so there's some really cool offerings on PlayStation's side too. They definitely have made efforts to not necessarily compete with Game Pass, because they straight up said they're not going to do their own version of Game Pass because it's not profitable, which, like, at this point in time, no, it's not, at least for Xbox. But, they definitely are trying to give people more, because there are people in the PlayStation ecosystem that look at the success of Game Pass and they say, like, Sony, why aren't you doing this for us? Like, do you not care about us? And so they're definitely trying to not necessarily compete, but give a similar experience to an extent to their customers. And so they definitely have been improving. But when you look at it, you compare the two, Xbox is miles ahead of PlayStation in terms of value in their ecosystem. But putting all of this together, all of these different categories and everything, it is by no means a stolen race. I forget who said it, and I think I've even mentioned this on the podcast before, but at the end of the day, it comes down to whoever sells 10 million. It's the first to 10 million that wins the console wars. And, there's been this huge thing about, console wars shouldn't be a thing, and both of them have their own very unique perspectives. I mean, the Xbox Series S is a great second console. So, I'm getting a PS5. I will get a Series X because I'm heavy in this industry. I'm not going to get a Series S. That's not for me. But for a lot of people, if they want a Game Pass machine, if they want to check out this awesome best value in gaming, but they want the PlayStation for those exclusives, the Series S is an amazing option, and I would heavily recommend it. I think if you get a PS5 and you're excited about, the newest Bethesda game coming to Xbox, or, you really want to try out the Xbox, I don't think you should get a Series X. I mean, unless you are super heavily into gaming in this industry, I think the Series S is the perfect option for you, because it's $300, and then you can access these games, which will still look good, maybe not as good as your PlayStation or the Series X, but they'll still look good and they'll play really, really well. So Xbox is doing some really cool things in that regard, and PlayStation is doing some interesting stuff with, like I said, they don't have the power over Xbox, so they're doing everything but. It's faster. They've got the 3D audio. They have the haptic feedback and all of the different stuff with their controller. They've got a lot of really unique things that Xbox can't do, at least at this point in time. And so it's really interesting to see these consoles compete with each other. And it's one of those things where right now I'm saying, if a gun to my head, which console am I going to pick? It's going to be PS5. They've got the games, they've got the controller, and they've got the performance. But I don't think this is a definitive answer. A year from now, it could be a completely different ballgame. And I think, Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda is a huge, huge part of that. I think 2 years from now, this will be a completely different conversation. But where we stand at launch, and bugs aside, because a console at launch is at its absolute worst state. It is absolutely impossible. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's unheard of for a console to get worse than it is at launch. So, all of the problems with PlayStations and Xbox will get fixed. And so, and obviously there are many more problems with the PlayStation than there are for the Xbox. But, they are temporary. And so that's why I'm not considering them overall in this verdict. But, overall, where I think we are now, and this is by no means an easy choice, the PS5 stands on top of the Xbox. Because at the end of the day, it does come down to games, and PlayStation has more and better games. But, there are other things that make it good as well. But that doesn't mean the Xbox is out of the fight. They definitely have some really cool things and some. I'm sure a lot of stuff up their sleeve that we're going to see within this next year and really be able to take advantage of. And so I am excited to still be in the Xbox ecosystem. And I think there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff in the future to look forward to. And so either way, you don't make a bad choice. Like I said, they're both great consoles. And so getting either of them, if you got an Xbox and you're listening to this and you're like, man, I have to return it now. Absolutely not. There are a lot of great things. Like I said, this was not an easy choice at all. But, let's just enjoy video games. But if I had to pick, there's my answer. There you go. And so we're going to move on into the games that I've been playing this week. And so I'm really excited to talk about one of them. But I've been playing some more Assassin's Creed Valhalla. By God, that's an insanely long game. I am 20 hours in, and I am 16% of the way through the game. I was asking people how long it took them to beat it. Someone told me 117 hours. It was absolutely nuts. I know reviewers took about 60 hours on average, but, I've been doing a lot of side stuff and just trying to maximize my time with the game. And so I imagine that my time is going to come close to that. And it's just absolutely ginormous. It's so much fun. It's a really great game, but it is huge. I've been continuing to chip away at that. I played Dirt 5, which is really, really fun. Having a lot of fun with that, hoping to beat the career, and I really want to check out, I haven't yet, but the track builder, all the custom tracks and really cool things. It's called Playgrounds in this game, but there's definitely something I want to check out. But I've been, digging through the career mode, having a lot of fun with that. It's got a lot of courses that they try to act like it's really different, but it's not. Like, a lot of the courses are kind of samey, but it does play really well, and it is a beautiful racing game. I think the cars look kind of like garbage, but the environments are so well done. It's like, I don't really care that much. Like, I wish they had some more attention to the cars, but the environments look stunning. So just props to Codemasters for that. And, the cars feel different. Like, each and every car has its own unique feel, which, again, props to them for putting that much care into how things feel and how they feel to drive, and just minuscule differences, and sometimes huge differences depending on the vehicle. Really, really great attention to detail throughout the game. And so I'm having a lot of fun with it. I also dipped my toes into Animal Crossing again last night. I've been wanting to do that over break. I'm really busy right now, but that is something I want to do, especially for Game of the Year consideration. So I played a little bit of that. And I'm really excited to announce here, if you follow my other YouTube channel, you might have seen this already, because these videos are going to go up at the exact same time. So at the same time that this podcast episode drops, I will have a video explaining this on my other YouTube channel. But I've been playing Immortals Fenyx Rising. So Ubisoft, don't know why they did this, but I'm super thankful. But Ubisoft sent me a copy of Immortals Fenyx Rising early, so I've been playing a chunk of that. Haven't gotten as far as I would like to, but that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing directly after this. And so I've been playing through that game. I've got a ton of content coming, so if you're interested in this game, and even if you aren't, I really need the support. Go check it out. I've got a lot of really cool stuff coming. Tomorrow I'm actually going to be live streaming the game over on YouTube, and so go check out my YouTube channel. I'll be doing a really cool live stream showing it off. I can't necessarily show off everything. I can't talk about my impressions of the game or anything like that. So there's certain things I can't talk about, but there's certain things that I can show you guys, and so I'm really excited. And so whatever you guys want to see, again, within certain requirements, I can show you guys. And so if you are interested, I'm going to be streaming that tomorrow at noon Eastern. I'll be playing that for a couple hours. And so I'm really, really excited to show you guys this game. It's the first time I've ever received a review code for a game as an independent creator. I have worked with places that I have received early copies of games before, but this is the first time someone has looked at me specifically and are like, we're going to give this dude a game. And so huge thank you to Ubisoft. I can't believe that this is a thing that I'm doing. This is my shot. And so I have a bunch of video content coming as well. So if you're not in the mood for live streams, and if you can't make it to the live stream, Of course, you can look at the VOD afterwards, and I'm also going to have a ton of video content going up starting tomorrow, and then heading up to release and afterwards. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that I'm excited to share with you guys. But yeah, I've been playing some Immortals Fenyx Rising, and while I can't talk about it yet, I'm excited to tell you guys all my thoughts on it very, very soon. I think next week, I think it's exactly a week from now when it comes out. I believe it's on a Thursday. Double checking that. Yes, exactly a week from now. So next week I'll be able to tell you guys all about Immortals Fenyx Rising. But for now, just know I'm playing it, and yeah. So it's a little bit shorter episode this week. Again, I mean, it being just me, but hopefully I gave you guys some enjoyment and took up a good 45 minutes of your time. But thank you guys for watching / listening / however you consume this content. I really appreciate it. Like, you guys do not know how much it means to me. I put a lot of work into this podcast, and with the Immortals content that I've been working on, it's been really, really busy for me this past week or so, and then also trying to get a PlayStation 5 has been stressful. But yeah, I definitely appreciate any support you guys give me, and this podcast, and everybody else on the panel, and that sort of thing. I have a lot of fun with it, and like I said, I hope you guys enjoy it. And if there's anything that you want me to talk about, or if you have any concerns or questions or comments or anything at all about this podcast or about the content we talk about here, please send me a message, comment down below, whatever you want to, however you can get in contact with me, just do it. I'd love to have a discussion with you and, keep this going and just make this the best possible podcast it can be. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be back next week to talk about, the crazy month that was November, and looking ahead to December, the last month of 2020. We're almost done, guys. But yeah, like I said, thank you guys so much. And I'll see you guys next week. Adios.